Alright, you ready?
Sure.
Well, Eric, welcome to episode 2 of An Engineer Chats. I'm Matthew, the engineer, and I'm today talking to you, my friend and compatriot. What have you brought to lecture me about today, Eric?
My gosh. Well, let me tell you, Matt. Uh, I was definitely not ready to be lecturing today at all. Not at all. Um, so, Matt,
Yes,
you like movies.
I do.
You enjoy them. We've watched them together many times. So, you know about this, little known filmmaker name of James Cameron?
Oh yeah, he's really small. I'm surprised to know him.
Well, have you ever seen or even heard of his movie called The Abyss?
I'll be honest, I actually have not.
Okay. Well, to make a long story short, it's basically about these oil well people who they're in like this weird submerged like undersea oil rig, and then the Navy crashes a submarine, and the Navy's like, "Hey, we're gonna use your experimental thing to go and like see if anyone's still alive on this crashed submarine at the bottom of the ocean."
Uh oh.
Because that's obviously how those things work, and things get a little weird, a little funky, but long story short, what if I told you that in this movie there is a thing where you can breathe something other than air?
I think I know what you're going to talk to me about. Continue, yeah.
And what if I told you that, this theoretical thing is actually a real thing, that you could breathe something other than air?
Can I try to spoil it for myself?
You can attempt to.
Is it oxygenated water that you fill your lungs with and you can still breathe?
Not exactly.
Damn it!
I mean, you're technically sort of correct. You basically what I'm going to talk to you about is I think it's the name changes from like liquid breathing to liquid air systems, something like that. But you're not too far off. That's basically the concept is um you put something that is a liquid, which is not a gas, in your lungs and you breathe.
Interesting. I'm excited to hear about it.
So yeah, uh I did a little bit of research on it because I saw Cameron's The Abyss. And I was like, damn, that's really cool. Because they have part of it is something is really far down. All of their submersible things are out for the count, and it's the only thing they have left. So someone has to basically go in this suit filled with the stuff and go really, really far.
I have seen this movie
And
actually.
have you?
Yeah, I remember that because I was like, well, that's strange. Is it the one where they. Have you watched the movie recently?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it the one where they submerge a rat in it?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. I was actually
boom.
going to talk about that. The
Okay.
fun part about that is they actually did that to the rat. That was real. It was breathing the stuff, but when I forget who the actor's name was. When the guy who like puts on the suit, he didn't actually use it. They basically got that one shot of it or something, and he was basically like, "Yeah, my eyes are swelling. I'm not doing this like actually."
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
That and at the time and still it's not exactly a exact science. And that kind of segues right into the first part of it that I'm going to talk about, which is a little bit about the history of it. So basically, there's like the idea and like early theoreticals of this whole thing where you could breathe something other than air has been around since like the 60s and 70s. And it was initially like this Navy funded research, basically. And I can't remember exactly what the whole idea was. I uh
I feel
you
like it
know,
may have been to avoid getting the bends.
yeah, but I just practically I don't know if that would make sense. but maybe I'm not thinking about it how they're doing it. But we'll get into that a bit later. So the first guy that actually tried this system actually did something similar to what you said, like highly oxygenated water, except he used saline instead.
Ugh.
His name was like Frank Falejczyk. Like I'll just spell it out. It's a tough one. Falejczyk.
Polish. Okay.
Yeah. So he basically just inhaled oxygenated saline.
And how'd that go for him?
He could breathe,
Oh
but
no.
the bad part was they couldn't quite get all of it out, and he ended up getting pneumonia.
And I take it he didn't do too well with that one?
No, he survived. He
Oh
was fine.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's the 60s and 70s, and
Oh, yeah, my bad.
they he also was doing this, very kind thing of being like, yeah, I'll be a guinea pig for you, Navy. So they, got to protect their investment a little bit. And he ended up he survived it, and he ended up doing a presentation about like liquid air systems as a theory and everything. And James Cameron was there, and that's where he got the idea for that movie.
Huh.
So
Okay.
yeah, but since then, there's been a lot of experimentation with it, and we don't use saline anymore. Surprise, surprise. Um,
I take it they don't use liquid oxygen either because that would freeze your lungs.
yeah, that really wouldn't work.
Sounds like that'd be kind of painful, but
A little bit. So what they use now is called perfluorocarbons. So they're basically things that I believe are just um, they're things that are made just out of fluoride and carbon atoms, like in different sequences and things.
Interesting.
Yeah, because basically, you can treat them a little bit differently based on what you want. So, like, some of them are used to deliver like drugs, some are used to like make you cold, actually. And, the last one that I obviously like talking about is to be able to breathe. But the main reason they use those is because they can carry tons and tons of oxygen and actually CO2.
Huh.
Like they can carry more than your actual blood can. So
So is this like a solution with these bits of things in it, or
mm,
is this like molecule of liquid?
to my understanding, it's the latter one of those. It
Interesting.
is just
Okay.
a liquid.
All
It's
right.
most of them are actually they're a bit heavier than water.
Bit
And
viscous.
they're a bit viscous, and
Okay.
that actually, like on the medical side of things, because they use that a lot. It's actually um, that's the main area it gets researched for because it's so thick. If you have like junk in your lungs, they'll just pour that in there, and then all of the bad stuff just kind of floats to the top because it's not as dense. So then they just stick a
Ew.
vacuum in and vacuum up all the
Oh.
junk.
Oh. Ew.
Uh-huh. But
Oh.
yeah, the reason that it actually lets you breathe is because your lungs can just take the oxygen out of it.
Yeah. The
And
alveoli and stuff like that.
yeah,
Okay.
I kind of it's a little bit complicated, so I thought I'd do just a little aside about how that works. Basically, like you said, uh, alveoli in your lungs will take oxygen from whatever fluid, be it gas or liquid,
Mm-hmm.
is in your lungs, and then they exchange it for nitrogen, basically.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
yeah, and because this stuff has tons of oxygen, it just takes the oxygen right out.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and there are basically two main ways of doing it right now. You basically fill the lungs all the way up, or
Oh.
you fill them part way up.
Dude, that just doesn't sound okay.
I mean, the whole scene in the movie wasn't lying. It's not a very pleasant experience when you try to get used to it.
I'd imagine it wouldn't do good stuff for your lungs.
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't damage your lungs.
Really?
As long as it's treated correctly, it doesn't do any harm. The
Interesting.
basically the danger, the the medical side of things, the reason that they can do it is that they have like all these machines and stuff right there. You're not isolated, and when they're done using it, they can just suck it right out.
Interesting.
Because
Okay.
because the issue with most of these uh, perfluorocarbons or PFCs, the issue with them is that they can store CO2 and oxygen, but they don't give up the CO2 very well. So,
Okay, so it's
you
kind
know,
of like not like, a one use thing, but it's easier to fill it with oxygen and put it in your lungs than take it out and then remove the CO2 afterwards?
kind of. I'm not 100% sure. Could you ask me that again, just in a different way?
So you're saying it's kind of hard to pull the CO2 out of the liquid when you're done with it, right?
No, no. I mean, like it doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't absorb the CO2 from your lungs that well?
I don't. I don't think so. No, or it's that, or like it stores. It doesn't. It can't hold it as much.
That would make sense molecularly, right? Because CO2 is bigger than, O2. So,
Yeah,
okay, gotcha.
yeah. So, uh, that's why. That's why, like for diving purposes, there it's not. You know, in theory it would be cool, but in practicality, you need like a pump or something to replace it
Dude,
because you need to get rid of the nitrogen.
that just sounds horribly uncomfortable. Can you imagine a flowing liquid in your lungs? Ugh.
That's why I have a feeling, medical field, you won't really remember too much out of it. Like like I said, they use it to like get stuff out of your lungs, and like the other big thing aside from like they do stuff with like really really young children with it, I think. There's some stuff there, but the other thing they use it for is like if you have damage in your lungs, uh, because it's like thicker or something, it can get to those damaged portions of your lungs and kind of get them to start working again.
Interesting. So, you're the guy who did research on this. Do you think it could like undeflate a collapsed lung? Maybe like if you patch the inside and outside, maybe you fill it up to like re-expand that lung. I don't know.
That one, I
I mean,
I
not
don't
that
know for sure.
exactly, but okay.
I don't know for sure. I mean, the I'm I'm gonna show that I am not a medical professional here, but I if I were to like fill a bag with a syrup or something, I would be concerned about hurting it when it's expanding or something by forcing it to expand. But I don't know.
Dude, I am as
I
far from
just wouldn't
medical
want to
as it
be like
gets.
I wouldn't want to stick a fire hose of this stuff down someone's throat and like force the lungs to open up.
I'm
I
just gonna
don't know
say
if you
it.
could do it slow.
This sounds like a torture technique. It sounds like something you do to someone you do not like. This won't kill you. Dot dot dot. It will be very painful for you.
It does sound like a maniacal sort of villain thing,
Kinda
like
does.
Batman, I filled your lungs with perfluorocarbon. You can breathe, but only for an hour, and then you'll get the bends. What do you mean, Riddler? We're above sea level.
He can't do that. It'll just be blah, 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 blah,
Yeah, that's true.
of all of the water that he's forcing past his vocal cords. Blah, just drooling on himself. Oh
Yeah,
no.
you have to get that stuff out
Yeah.
when it gets too nitrogenous. But the reason that it would theoretically be um, cool for diving is that because you don't have air in there, you have a liquid. It does, like you said, kind of eliminate some of the issues with the bends because there's nothing, there's liquid in your lungs instead of air. It's not getting
Yeah.
compressed.
Yeah, that's what I
And
was gonna
for
say.
listeners who don't know all that much about diving or just want to learn a little more, basically the deeper down in water you go, the higher the water pressure gets because there's just more and more water on top of you and everything. And because your lungs are like twin balloons in your chest, as you go down, the water kind of pushes on them and actually shrinks them. And basically, when you have to be careful coming back up because you can like pop your lungs.
I'm
And
gonna
in
have to disagree with you, Eric. That's not what the bends are.
I know, I was getting to that.
Okay.
This is just like another thing,
Yeah.
basically. There's a lot of things it helps with, but the bend, like Matthew said, when you come back up, the nitrogen in your bloodstream uh, does something pretty similar right around your joints usually, and it's not really fun.
Yeah, and it also messes with your brain
Yeah.
because I mean, not to cut you off, Eric, but basically when like I don't know what happens precisely, but it ends up with more nitrogen in your blood if you don't come up at the correct rate, like from deeper depths to less deep depths. And your brain expects oxygen and it gets nitrogen, which is not known for its you know, helpfulness to your body. But
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, nitrogen in your bloodstream has to work its way out slowly normally. But if you had this, it theoretically would take less time for that to happen, which means you could come up faster. And uh, basically, in summary, you can come up from deeper dives faster, and you can also go deeper without as much equipment because your lungs aren't going to get crushed.
yeah, you're not going to be like a soda can at 10,000 feet, which just implodes from the sheer pressure of that much water.
Yeah, because instead you have basically liquid in your lungs that is in fact just a little bit denser than than water. So
Yeah,
it compresses a bit easier.
definitely. Well, that's
Yeah.
cool.
hmm And uh yeah, like I said, the main issue with it is you need a way of getting rid of that nitrogen that's getting stored in this stuff. So that's kind of the
Stumbling block?
stumbling block. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That that stuff that we're running into right now. But um I did a bit of looking at like current news surrounding it, like not for medical purposes, because you can look that up and there's 1,000 different articles. That
Medical
and
journals are known for their prolific nature.
yeah, you could really easily read them. And that and I just like diving. That's why I did this. So the Russians
Oh, of course it's
are
the Russians.
are actually doing, or they were at least in like 2016, 2017. The Department of Defense, or like, their equivalent, basically, was doing research on it. I believe they said for like submarine stuff, basically. And I think the whole idea was kind of a mix of what we had been saying, like the benefits of it. Basically, if the sub was going down or something, you would get into these suits and take that stuff in, and then you could go up to the surface real fast
Yeah.
with less, bends problems.
Dude, you know the Russians just want to fill the entire sub with that stuff, right?
That's, when you first said, like, it's probably to prevent the bends. I was like, yeah, that would make sense, but what are you going to do? Fill the submarine?
Yeah, no. Can you imagine? Dude, well, like, a lot of the stuff with submarines is they have to be so. That's why they're like, that's why they're kind of like bullet shaped, kind of like rounded on both ends, is because it's a very strong shape to withstand the pressure. You wouldn't
hmm
need all that. You could probably fit a lot more stuff in your sub if it were
It was
fully
filled with
liquid
liquid.
inside. Yeah, that's interesting.
My gosh.
I was joking, but I guess that kind of makes sense.
Well, I can see it now. Just people running around in balloon submarines.
Oh,
You can
dude.
like you can see through the skin of it
Ew.
because it's a sack of
Ew.
oxygenated liquid.
Dude, you would still sweat too. Oh, okay. Off this train, dude.
We
Get
have
me
to
off.
turn them into one-man submarines.
Oh, gross.
But getting back on the very last point I have on my little sheet here, you know how I was saying the Russians were doing were doing research on it?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, they've been sticking with dogs, but supposedly, they have successfully had a few of them that can stay underwater for like half an hour on this stuff, and
Interesting.
they have some device basically to like simulate different pressure depths, so like water pressure at different depths.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to guess what the deepest they've gone is in the simulation.
3,000 feet.
Guess in meters.
Oh no. 2,000 meters?
No,
Higher
you're
or
way
lower?
high.
I'm way high? Okay.
Yeah,
Um, 500 meters.
you got it on the head.
Wow, that's still pretty deep, 1,500 feet.
Yeah, it's. I mean, considering you're not supposed to really go deeper than like right around 100 feet without like special training and special mixes sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
But yeah.
Well, that's really
So
cool.
yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, that's wild. Well, thanks for lecturing me about something. As the gimmick of the show is, I did not know at all what you're gonna come at me with. You always know me; it's gonna be some sort of technology usually, right? I had no idea going into this what you were thinking, but I mean that's cool. It like because I remember that movie now because I saw that and I'm like that looks horrifying. And that's probably why through the whole episode today I've been like oh no oh.
I mean, you also are not exactly a fan of diving, so
No, it's
I can't
okay.
can't really blame you.
Yeah. All right, Eric. Well, thanks for lecturing me today. I'll let you go.
Yeah.
And
Have a
I'll see you next week, dude. And then I'll be lecturing you on something strange.
My gosh. My money is on more tech related stuff.
That's a good bet. All right. Well, tune in next episode then.